Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Cooperative Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. I'm glad that you're here. Glad that you're listening. I'm in Washington, D.C., and we have Mary Alex Blanton as our guest today. She's with the National Cooperative Bank, and she's the Senior Vice President of Strategic Marketing. Good morning, Mary Alex.
Morning, Vernon. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good.
Great. And we're here to talk about the 2024 Co-op Innovation Award.
Yes.
Yeah. How long has that award been in existence?
This is actually going to be our 10th year for the Co-op Innovation Award. So we're very excited to see what applicants we can get and additional sponsorships to really leverage, the current pool of money to get more money out in the co-op ecosystem, to really leverage these co-ops to see what they can do in the community.
So in those 10 years, how much money, how much grants have you given out in these 10 years?
Yes. And so the Co-op Innovation Award was first started by Capital Impact Partners in 2015. They started it, and then NCB joined a few years later to add additional, grant funds. But since 2015, there have been 26 co-op grantees for a total of $855,000 that have been awarded over the last years. The grants are from $30,000 to $50,000 per organization. So, it's a lot of money for a co-op organization to, implement a project with these grants.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of money.
Okay. It is.
Mary Alex, I want to talk a little bit about you, though. How did you get involved with this? So let's start off with, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
Sure. So I grew up in Severna Park, Maryland, just right outside of Annapolis. My family was military, so we ended up there. So I grew up in Severna Park, and I went to school at Boston College, and I studied marketing and finance. So it's kind of interesting that I run marketing for a bank, and that's what I do. My senior year of Boston College, I actually went to the Career Center at BC, and National Cooperative Bank was hiring for what they called the Professional Development Program. It was a rotational program. So, you went to NCB and you got to go through all areas of the bank, underwriting, origination, servicing, accounting, just to see how the whole bank kind of worked together.
Wow.
So I applied and was accepted to the PDP program through the Boston College Career Center.
Well,
and
let me stop you. How long has that been? You've been at the bank since?
I hit 25 years next month, July 6th.
Well, you're 25 years. That's great.
25 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually just got back from my 25th college reunion last weekend, and people were actually asking me, "Are you still with that bank that you started with right out of school?" I'm like, I am. I'm still with NCB. So.
And most people have probably changed 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right?
Right.
Okay. 25.
There's actually 3 of us that started together within the PDP program. I went to Boston College, and 2 others went to Bentley, and we are still here 25 years later, and we were all PDPs together.
So what does that say about the bank?
It says a lot. The bank is, I grew up here basically, right? Right out of college.
Well, you look like you're 27, so
yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. A lot of people came to my wedding. I've had 2 kids. So it's familial. Like, people are like family here. People care about each other. We understand that it's a different kind of bank, right? Even people coming from other financial institutions to NCB, and it's like, oh, this is really different because, it's the customers we serve, the impact we make in communities, the difference we make. I think it's just a different mentality of working for a socially responsible organization. It's more like we always say, it's a triple bottom line, right? We care about, of course, making money because we have to. We're a financial institution. We, are a co-op ourselves. So when we make money, our cooperative shareholders receive patronage dividends. So it's important that, the bank does financially well. But we care about the impact we make in communities. We strive to ensure 35% of our loans go to low, moderate income communities and co-op development. So we have a mission to do well and to do good. Like our former CEO always said, we do well to do good. But then we also, the triple bottom line is sustainability. We care about the community. We have a large renewable energy lending department. What are the impacts that we can, have in the community? So, it's definitely a different institution. We have really unique customer base. And I think that's what keeps people here is that it's not just this loan and it's like a cog in a wheel. It's very unique, customers. We have housing co-ops, we have food co-ops, we have renewable energy, we have community healthcare, Ace Hardware, independent, other grocers. So it's just very unique. And so I think when people come here, they stay because of the mission and how we all work together, as a financial institution.
You can see how your work really helps people. Yeah.
It does. Mm-hmm.
People in communities. So you mentioned you have 2 children. How old are they? And
I have 2 boys, 12 and 9. And, they know about cooperatives. They know where I work. They know when we go to the grocery store, we buy our Cabot cheese and Land O'Lakes butter, and I can never get them and my husband out of REI with another backpack. So, I think it's important to, every year we produce the Co-op 100 report, that will come out in October during Co-op month, which lists the top 100 co-ops by revenue. And I always, when we give that out and give it out to our employees and they open it up and they're like, oh, I didn't know Ace Hardware was a co-op. Oh, I didn't know, Ocean Spray was a co-op or, Blue Diamond. So it's all these recognizable names you may not know, but if you, go to your grocery store in your local community, you can, shop co-op versus other big box stores because they keep the money in the community. They give back in different ways. So I think that's just important to teach, starting when they're young and even just, keep educating people on co-ops and the impact they have in their communities.
So I want to stop a minute and talk about the 4 different types of co-ops. At least I've categorized them into 4 types. You mentioned a lot of them. And the first 2, it depends on who owns and controls the business. If the co-op is owned and controlled by the employees, then it's a worker co-op. And I have it. That could be any business. Any business you could think of could be owned and controlled by the employees. The second type is if the business is owned and controlled by the people that uses the products or services, then it's called a consumer co-op. And that's housing co-ops, credit unions, food co-ops, REI, which you've already mentioned. There's a health clinic in Madison, Wisconsin that's owned by the patients. So that's a consumer co-ops. Are those co-ops that are owned and controlled by the people that use the products or services. And the other 2 are businesses. The first one, let's call it a purchasing co-op. It's a group of people that come together or businesses that come together to form a business so that the members can buy quality at a lower price to get in bulk. And farmers use this, artists use it. There's Consumer Purchasing Alliance in D.C. that was created for churches and charter schools and any nonprofits. And it was amazing the amounts of money, particularly the churches, saved in buying things like energy and trash pickup and stuff like that. And the 4th one is called a marketing co-op or a producer co-op. And that's when a group of people or businesses come together, create a business that will sell or market their products. And farmers that you mentioned, Cabot Creamery, Land O'Lakes, Ocean Spray. And then there's an artist, a group of black women in Pittsburgh called Ujamaa. And they have come together to sell their jewelry and artwork and clothing that they make, and they will buy other artists' work, and they sell it through their storefront in Pittsburgh or online. So those are the 4 different types: worker co-op, consumer co-op, purchasing co-op, marketing producer co-op. And you've mentioned a lot of them that the bank already works with, or provide loans, or they can put their deposits into those banks. Okay, so those are the 4 different types. You talked about your children and how you got involved. They know, they're 9 and 12, and they know about co-ops because their mom works for a co-op, a bank, and that does business with co-ops. But did you know anything about co-ops before you started working with NCB?
I did not. I didn't know what a co-op was, even though I've been a member of Navy Federal Credit Union since 1983.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, I opened my bank account when I was, 6 or 7 years old. And so I didn't know what a co-op was. I mean, I know when I opened, the credit union, you open your share account and you get like little, 20 cents dividends and 15-cent dividends here and there, but I didn't, understand that. So I really learned when I came here. And the nice thing when I first started at the bank was I rotated through all the different departments. So, you got to hear the stories of Barry Silver, who, retired from NCB like recently, but is just, inducted in the Hall of Fame and has every information about co-ops. And so you hear the stories of all the different sectors from employees and just the history of co-ops. And that's how, I was trained. Now we have so many, everything's online and you can read about different co-ops and understanding the co-op principles. But no, I learned it just through starting at the bank and really just being immersed in the NCB culture. So
what do you like most about co-ops?
So co-ops, help community. They work together. They're, what I like is like, they're democratically controlled. They're not investor owned. They're really to benefit their member owners, and they're not having some shareholder telling them what to do just to increase their profits, right? So they really care about the community and in all different sectors, right? So I have been fortunate at the bank. I run the marketing and communication department now, but when I first started NCB, I was a credit analyst in the housing, co-op housing and community association line of business, and I became a business development officer. So I got to travel and make loans to, co-op customers. So you got to hear their story. You got to see the impact in the communities they make. Like I've known you from National Association of Housing Co-ops, and I just loved some of the housing stories where people, they got into this housing co-op when they were first married, a 1-bedroom, and they were like, oh, I'm staying. I'm going to move to my 2-bedroom, and then I'm going to move to my 3-bedroom, and I'm not leaving because I love the people that I live with and the community we've built. And I think that's similar to a food co-op too, right? Community ownership, and you're giving back, and you're using local farmers, and you're having events to support the local community. And I think that's just really important. And I think it just really helps build, a stronger sense of, community and localization that I think other, organizations and other, for-profit companies may not do. So
I'm glad you brought up how we met.
Yep.
20 years ago or something. It's been a while. NAHC, National Association of Housing Co-ops. I got 2 master's degrees, an MBA, and I knew nothing about co-ops. I had been a member of a credit union. I had taught at Howard, and I was a member of the Howard Credit Union. And I knew because one of the secretaries in the business school where I taught was on the board of the credit union, and she tried to make sure everybody got involved and knew about it. But I didn't understand what that meant. I did not know anything about co-ops. It wasn't until I started a property management business and started managing limited equity housing co-ops. These are affordable housing co-ops. And Mary Alex, I would go into meetings, into board meetings, and it would be mostly middle-aged to old black women that were running these co-ops. And they did an excellent job. They didn't need an MBA to run a $500,000 business income a year or $2 million income a year business. They learned what they needed to know through what is called the 5th principle of cooperation, education, training, and information. So they had people coming in teaching them, and they used common sense or mother wit. They held each other accountable. They held me accountable, the lawyers. And that's how I got to know NCB, because some of them had loans with NCB.
Right.
Okay. And so I just fell in love with this business model where I saw these everyday people running the business, managing the business, and doing an excellent job of it. So I fell in love, and the more I learned, got involved with the Potomac Association of Housing Co-ops, that's D.C., Maryland, and Virginia co-ops, and then the National Association. The more I got involved, the more I learned. And now since this radio show, I've gotten to know all of the four sectors and people in it, and people that help support creating and starting and making sure the co-ops are successful. I love it even more. It's fascinating to me to watch people control their own destiny and create wealth inside the community, wealth inside of family, individual wealth. So it's just fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and most of co-ops, I mean, even like looking back to housing co-ops or food co-ops or electric co-ops, they all came from it was a problem that people wanted to solve, and the co-op model was the solution. And so a lot of them come out of just, they're trying to solve a problem. And I think you see that a lot, even just newer co-ops today, which are smaller, probably in scale, but they're trying to solve a need. And that's kind of what you see. And it's just interesting, all the new co-ops that are kind of emerging. A lot of them are smaller in scale, but they're just really creative ways of using the co-op model.
So it's also interesting. I didn't mention Rural Electric Co-op, which is a consumer co-op. The people that buy the electricity or have those little gadgets on their house that circle around that tells how much electricity and then they pay for that electricity. Those people own the business.
Yes.
And they were started, Rural Electric, in the 30s because the companies, for the capitalistic companies, would not go into the rural
America,
and put up poles and lines because it wasn't financially, they didn't get a return on investment.
Right.
And they may have lost money. But they created these companies, and they've been highly successful. And there's some figure, Mary Alex, that like 75% of the land mass or counties in the U.S. are run by rural electric co-ops.
Yes, it's very high. I don't know if it's that high, but I think it's around that, yeah.
So it's interesting. So now we have this 2024 Co-op Innovation Award that has been around 10 years. You said that you all have given 26 grants for $855,000. I have it somewhere I read this is seed money. And you want them to sort of increase the amount of money they get to run their business and make sure they're successful. So do you have a sense of how people in these 10 years, these 26 grantees, has taken this $855,000 and how much additional money they've been able to raise?
Yeah, it's actually pretty shocking. From that $855,000, more than $13 million in additional funding from foundations, investors, or government has been given to these organizations. They've replicated 7 programs regionally, so models have been replicable, and they've worked with I think 25 local or state governments. So it's great if you give $50,000 to a project for a co-op, whether it's a brand new co-op or one that's been around for a while, but they just need money for a certain project, to be able to leverage their success and get additional funding and grow and replicate. That's a huge win, and that's what we would love to see more programs like that. So it's amazing. $13 million in 10 years, just from 855,000. So it's a great number.
So 855,000, you're sort of at 50,000 per grantee.
At the most. There've been like 30 to 50, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you're like 3 grantees away from $1 million. And so it's almost like you take $1 million.
We'll hit that one this year.
You take $1 million and turn it into $13 million. That's,
right.
That is awesome. So how can somebody find out about this innovation award?
Sure. Probably the best way is to email me, and I can send them the link to the application and educational webinars. My email is mblanton@ncb.coop. It's mblanton@ncb.coop. And we can provide the link to the application and some history of past award winners. We also are hosting 2 webinars, educational webinars, to learn more about the application process. One is actually going to be today, June 6th at 1 o'clock, and next week, June 12th at 2 o'clock. So I can also send the webinars for those if someone would like to participate. But the application is due June 18th. So, we have a couple weeks. And that would be the best to email me directly, and I could send them the information.
Thank you, Mary Alex. And how many applicants would you expect to get, or have you gotten in the past?
Probably in the 40 to 50 range of applicants. And typically what happens, the applications will come in. We will have a set of applicant readers that will read all the applications, and then we'll have a first round selection. And then those that get moved to the next round will then read those, and then the grantees will be awarded in early October. And so they'll find out they've been awarded in October. So, we hope to get, we'll take as many applications as we can. We would love to increase the sponsorship dollars, the grants that go out right now. Thanks to additional sponsors, besides Capital Impact and NCB, Rochdale Capital, National Co-op Grocers, Wells Fargo, Ford and Pelikas, they're a law firm that we work with, and GEJ Law, another law firm we work with, have all contributed to the fund of dollars, and Wells Fargo, I think. I said that. I think it totals about $170,000 in the money right now, but we would love to get additional sponsorship dollars, and our sponsorship ranges from $5,000 and up. So if anyone is interested in becoming a sponsor for the Co-op Innovation Award, they can also email me. We would love to be able to provide more money to more applicants. We'd like to keep the grant dollars, 35 to 50. So we don't want to just do like $10,000. So we'll keep it around, 4 grantees for that, to 50,000. If we can get additional money, that's just another awardee that could get potentially $50,000, because we just think creates more impact for the higher dollar amount if they have a project that they can implement. So we would love to get more money to be able to get more awardees. And the applications are great. It is tough to pick just 4 or 5, award winners. So, they all have great stories. They have great projects. But unfortunately, it comes down to money that we can provide.
And so if you provide $50,000, I just did my math. If my math is correct, and if history prevails, then the applicant can raise 13 times that. That's what the history said. So that means that $50,000 becomes $650,000. Again, if my math is right. So, okay. So it's over $500,000 that one can mushroom this money into. That is fascinating of what an organization can get accomplished if they start off with writing a proposal, a grant.
Right.
Okay. And they can find out about writing the proposal and grant with 2 webinars, one today at 1:00 and
Correct.
one next week at 2:00. Is that, what was next week's the date of next
On
week?
June 12th.
June 12th. Okay. So is there anybody around that will help put together an application if somebody needs that help?
We don't have people to help, but the application is it's pretty straightforward. We're looking at, what project they're looking to implement. The funding is not used for gap, financing or operational expenses. There really has to showcase like a project, a budget, projections, the impact in the community, can it be replicable? Like we like to see, realistic goals, and just kind of explain the impact it can have. So it's a pretty easy online application. Again, the due date is June 18th. I wouldn't wait till the last minute. You can go in, you can save, you can, come back later. But just, really articulate the goals of the project for that. There is a section where that you have to show your budget, but it's not anything that is too complex that they would have to hire anyone to write.
Okay. $50,000, $30,000 to $50,000 is the award. And you can take that $50,000 if history prevails, and it comes to $650,000 by getting money from other organizations, including governments or other foundations.
You have to, if you show success, that's where other money can come in. So if you can take the grant, implement a project successfully, that could help leverage other money coming in because they can see the impact in their community, whether it's, housing or a worker co-op or a food co-op. It's showing that impact in the community that you've used that money, and then that could leverage additional funds. So that's where other co-ops have been successful, is because their project has been successful. And then they can grow and they can help their communities.
Okay. So let's talk about one project.
Sure.
So the engineer just said we have 2 minutes to go before our first break. So let's wait until after the break,
okay,
and we'll get into projects. Can you just take a minute and summarize the Innovation Award again? How does one apply? Blah, blah, blah. And your email address.
Yep. So the Co-op Innovation Award is a grant for a project for a co-op to apply for. Grants can be from $35,000 to $50,000. The priority is given to housing, worker, and food, but any co-op can apply. It's a national award, so rural, urban, we've had co-ops from many different states be granted, but the application is due June 18th. If you'd like more information on the application or the webinars, educational webinars that will take place today, June 6th at 1 o'clock and June 12th at 2 o'clock, please email me at mblanton@ncb.coop. That's mblanton@ncb.coop.
Thank you, Mary Alex. Listen, everybody, we've talked about the Innovation Award. We've talked about how you can apply. When we come back after the break, I would like for Mary Alex to tell us some examples of people that have won this award, 3, 4, 5 examples, whatever we can do in the next section, and really encourage you to apply. It's a good process to go through applying, so you make sure you know what it is you want to do. But we'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
News Talk 1450 WOLAM, where information is power.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Co-op. And today we have Mary Alex Blanton on with us, talking about the 2024 Cooperative Innovation Award. Mary Alex, we talked about how we met, and you were in the room when I pitched to you and Chuck Snyder, the past CEO and a great friend of ours, this idea of this radio show. Mm-hmm. That was basically 11 years ago.
And it was only going to be for the month of co-op month, right? October. It was like, we'll do it once a week during co-op month.
Yes. Yeah, it was only going to be 1 month. And right. that was the pitch. But it seemed like everybody loved it, including me. And now, this October, it will be 11 years.
Wow.
That we've been on air. And people can go to everything.coop to listen to past shows, almost 400 shows, episodes, or podcasts, or whatever you want to call them now, that you can listen to and get information about different co-ops or different co-op sectors and different people that help to create co-ops to support and called ecosystem. But National Co-op Bank has sponsored us, not just that first month, but all of these years, and they've sponsored us this year. So NCB's mission is to support America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities, by providing innovative financial services. And when you talked about your time at NCB, I would imagine from how you said it's the innovation that goes into the thinking of how can we help somebody, particularly in the banks, in the normal banking system. You don't go into low income, low resource communities because they don't have assets. And most banks, most people that loan money, they're only interested in, 3 things: getting their money back, and getting their money back. So they have. We're
not saying, but hey, our mission portfolio, what we categorize our kind of more low and moderate income portfolio, performs very well. So the whole notion of because it's a low income area or a mission loan, it's going to be higher risk, and we're not going to get paid back. It's not like that. I mean, if, you analyze it correctly and you underwrite it and you know what you're doing, like our portfolios perform very well in all of our sectors for that, though.
Why do you think that's so? Because that goes against the classes I had in my MBA about banking, and I thought I was going to be in banking. I thought I was going to be an investment banker at one point. So why do you think that these low-income portfolios, and I've had shared capital to the fund of Northeast on, and they all talk about having default rates between 1% and 3%, which is much lower than normal, and any investors never lost any money. So why do you think that's so?
I mean, I'll just speak for myself. And like when we're underwriting a loan, I mean, most co-ops, even like just looking at housing co-ops or food co-ops, they're borrowing what they need, right? They're not going crazy to say like, oh, we need $20 million to redo everything. There's a need, and they need to, raise money and have financing for a certain specific project or need. So as a financial institution and underwriting, you're underwriting the cash flow and the ability to repay, and you mitigate the risks. And so we do that. We underwrite loans in our low moderate income portfolio just like we do in all the other portfolios. So, we're kind of a cash flow lender, so the repayment and the ability to repay is critical. And so we look at that through the same lens of all of our loans. I mean, you go into the communities, you see how they're structured. Is there good education and training? Do the people know what they're doing? Do they have good management? Do they have a good team in place? Is the community involved? I mean, those are all critical factors, when you're looking at a credit. And so, we kind of do it the same way. And so, I mean, just like in a housing co-op, a limited equity housing co-op and a market rate housing co-op, the people want a place to live. They budget their money. They know how much money is coming in to pay for their loan, to pay for the operating expenses. So it's really no different. So, it's just how we've been structured and how the bank has always been since our inception. The bank was founded by an act of Congress in 1978. So we were founded by as the National Consumer Cooperative Bank. We privatized in 81, and we were then structured as a cooperative organization. And our main customers at the time, why we were formed, was for housing and food, the consumer-owned co-ops, because no other financial institutions were providing capital to them. And so the bank was formed to help those entities. And so that's what we know. And I think what's really important, like you said, why I came to the bank and the industries we serve very niche markets, and we understand them, and our business development officers and our senior management, we know the markets we serve. We think better than anyone, right? Better than our competition, because these have been the sectors we have worked with for 45 plus years. And so I think that gives us, we're just more comfortable in those sectors because we know them. We don't get into random markets here and there. We know, we have like 11 markets we're in, and, we kind of stick to our knitting.
So I want to say it a little bit differently from what I've learned. You, like most banks, are looking for at the asset. What assets does somebody have? But the other bank, the capitalistic banks, will look at what other real estate, what stocks or bonds they have. They look at those assets. You may look at those assets, but you will also look at the asset that co-ops have. And you compared market rate housing co-ops with limited equity housing co-ops, but they're all co-ops. And their number one asset is community. It's bonding, it's relationships, it's working together. And when you said you look at how much is the community involved, those relationships are the assets that will cause people to make sure they make these loans back. The values and principles of cooperation and how people work together, to me, is what I've come to as I've talked to NCB in the past and now, and these other financial institutions that work with co-ops, is you look for the physical assets, but you also look for those assets that are not as physical, but they're there in co-ops. How do we work together? Okay, how much is the community involved? How does the governance work, management work? All of these different relationships in those relationships, to me, this is Vernon now talking, is the
Yep.
number one reason that people will make sure they're going to make these loans back. They're going to do whatever they need to do. And you are a co-op also, and they want to make sure that you're in solvent, so you'll be around to help other co-ops as time goes by. That's my conclusion. Okay. And I've asked that question a lot because the loan rate failure is so small, negligible, that it's against what one is taught in school. You go into low-income communities, they won't pay you back. That's not proven to be true in this co-op world. No. Okay. Now I want to ask you, can you give us, let's start with one. Well, let me just name it because it's one of my favorite, and that's Shy Fresh out of Chicago.
Right.
You all gave them a grant.
We gave them $50,000 in 2020 as for part of the Co-op Innovation Grant. That was right during COVID. So they kind of expedited their project during COVID. They launched a commercial kitchen that was owned, and all the workers are formerly incarcerated Chicagoans, primarily Black women. And so an opportunity to create this co-op, and they, did prepared meals for the community during this crisis. I mean, they were already ready to do this prior to COVID. Like, this was their plan, was to create this worker co-op, to make this commercial kitchen, to make prepared meals. But COVID kind of just expedited it. And then it was hugely successful during this time because people, COVID, they didn't want to go to the grocery store. They didn't want to go anywhere. They had they had these meals that they could pick up from the Chai Fresh kitchen. So they've been very successful.
So let me hold on a minute, though, because this is what excites me. You got, if I recall, 5 persons, I think 4 were Black women. They've had trouble with the injustice system, okay? They have been incarcerated in the past. And most people that come out of jail, there's something like 70% go back in within 5 years. There's some huge amount of people that go back into jail after they get out. But these 5 persons started a business. They started a co-op business at the start of COVID. They started a business. Most businesses are closing down or going out of business. They start a business, and they have been highly successful. Can you tell us a little bit more about them, Chai Fresh?
Since their launch, again, they have been highly successful. They've actually built a kitchen, like a real estate that, they own. If you go on their website, like, you can, organizations can hire them to prepare their food for, events, for schools, for, just different groups where they can, cater and prepare their food. And I believe, and I'm not sure, but I think they're actually looking for, like, establish more housing co-op too. So, they're a worker-owned co-op. So they're in charge of the co-op, their impact, what they do as an employee, it makes a difference. And I think this, is a great example of, taking, formerly incarcerated women and having a new opportunity and, like, created a greater impact in the community and for themselves too. Like, just hear their stories and what they've been able to accomplish. It's been really good.
Yeah, it's excellent. And what I've been told, I don't know if you know or not, but it is a worker co-op. These 5 people started, they own and control it, the business.
Right.
Okay. But they were looking at buying real estate, if you will, an apartment building, making it into a co-op where they would have a place to live. And they were looking to start a daycare center because the cost of daycare center co-op that they would also own, or the people that would bring their children to this daycare center would own. So, do you know where they are with that?
I don't know, but I can find out, and you can maybe have them on another episode. Yes.
They've been on the show before, and I really, I like their determination. I like that they've decided that they will have control over their life, and they can do that with co-ops. And that to me is the biggest value of cooperation. Dame Pauline Green, who was the president of ICA, International Cooperative Alliance, said on this show once that co-ops help people come out of poverty with dignity.
Yeah.
So these ladies have dignity. They are creating physical wealth, financial wealth, community wealth all over, and they're looking at other businesses that they can start that will help them and their community. It's a fascinating story. Love it.
Yeah.
Fascinating story. Okay, do you have another one?
Another one, and more of these are high level, but I know we provided the Independent Drivers Guild in 2019, $25,000, and they launched a purchasing co-op to reduce expenses for drivers in New York City, which then turned into the Drivers Co-op in 2021. So again, that's probably one where they were awarded $25,000. They leveraged that. They got additional grant money. I know NCB provided additional grant money a few years ago, and they launched the Drivers Co-op, which is a worker co-op in New York City to compete with the other rideshare programs. And the Drivers Co-op, they created an app to put more money in the drivers' pockets than a lot of these other companies, don't pay for that, business.
So
the Drivers Co-op is in New York. It's a worker co-op in New York City. They have an app, and it's similar, a rideshare program, but as a member of the co-op, the drivers get more money back in their pockets.
So they are competing against Uber and Lyft.
Correct.
Okay. And any other
rideshare program.
Rideshare program.
Cab or anything.
But these drivers, not only do they own the car that they're driving, but they will own the business.
Correct.
Okay.
As the worker co-op, just like your employee and worker owner, like you create the business. You're not being told what to do. You have to work together to create that model and the money coming back and the money going into the co-op to sustain it. So, yeah.
So what you're talking about, or at least what I want to bring up, is the third principle. We've talked about the fifth principle of cooperation, but the third principle is member economic participation. So each of those drivers will have to pay something to get in. In a food co-op, it may be $100. In a housing co-op, it may be $1,000. But it's something, a membership amount of money that you have to pay in. But when there is a surplus or a profit, there is a formula by which you'll get money back.
Correct. It's patronage, right? A dividend or patronage, yeah.
That's member economic participation. All right. And it's interesting that it's New York City, so that you have these drivers that own the business, and therefore they can make more money, and they have more control over their hours and what they do and when they do it and everything. So, yeah, it's fascinating. Love co-ops. Got another one?
We have a couple examples. I think it was like 2 years ago, the Pilsen Housing Cooperative, they were awarded $30,000 to oversee fundraising for the expansion of another housing co-op, a generated building, to secure affordable homes in the heart of Chicago. So again, I kind of wanted to show different examples of how this Co-op Innovation Award can be used. Like we've had a couple examples of new housing co-ops being developed to serve kind of refugees or underserved populations in maybe an urban market. We have worker co-op ownership, right? The Drivers Co-op and Chai Fresh. Last year we did the Compost Cooperative. They were awarded $50,000 to develop a new line of compost, to increase revenue and sustainability and increasing job opportunities. So you kind of see from a lot of these examples, it's not just one-stop shop, right? Like we've seen farmers and compost and food prep, and another one I think a couple of years ago was the Industrial Commons, which trained workers to be upholsterers. So job training, education, new product development, new housing.
I want to go back to the composting, though.
Okay.
And that was last year.
Yep.
And that was $50,000. So can you tell these urban listeners what is composting?
Oh, well, I don't do a great job, but it's basically turning food waste into compost. I think my dad actually does it now. It's your banana peels and things that you can just kind of keep that can go into the ground that can help build the soil and help the soil, So, you don't have to be throwing away all your food. You can use it for sustainability into the soil. So I have it. It's the best form of fertilizing. Yeah. Okay. So what do you compost? What do you put aside? Banana peels?
I don't do anything right now in my I'm in a housing co-op. I have talked about in the board meetings about possibly starting we have a hillside, but putting up some farming or putting up some growing tomatoes or other things, and we could do composting. But nobody else has shared that vision with me yet, but I'll keep at it. Okay.
Just create a committee, Vernon. You'll have the compost committee, and then there you go.
But the other part of the compost, the reason I wanted to go back, was these were formerly incarcerated individuals also.
Yep, they were. Yep.
Yeah. So there's
developed inside a county jail, and actually by incarcerated people but they had this, idea, and they created this, and they're providing job opportunities and ownership opportunities. Like you said, it's, providing those opportunities for people that are coming out of, of jail and they don't know what to do and they're trying to get back into society and people aren't giving them a chance. I mean, having these opportunities and creating your own business is amazing opportunity for these individuals. So we've seen a lot of examples. We've said two already with Chai Fresh and now the compost co-op, but just unique structures for people taking, ownership of what to do next and kind of being responsible for the next chapter of their life.
So the first time I heard about this was a bakery in Italy.
Okay.
And they had won the best bread in Italy, and it was a big deal. But it was a co-op that was inside the jail and outside the jail, so that you had people that were the members were incarcerated and not incarcerated. So when people left jail, they automatically had a family. They automatically had a job. They automatically had income. They automatically had voice.
That's great.
And so, again, when most people come out of jail, there's very little that they have. They don't have a job, and too many people won't give them a job. The only thing that they can normally do is go out and if they were selling drugs or prostitution or some other illegal activity, that's what's available for them. And so they end up back in jail, 70%. But in this case, because they have something else, and they have that, with the ethical values of cooperation are honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. Mm-hmm. So you have people caring for you, and you can care for other people. That there's no reason to go back to jail, and they don't. So that was it. And in Puerto Rico, they have a lot of, and Dr. Jessica Gordon-Nimhard, who wrote the book Collective Courage about blacks and co-ops, but she's doing research about the co-ops in the penal institutions in Puerto Rico to look at some of the same kinds of things. What kinds of co-ops are they doing, and how much they have when they get out, so they won't go back.
Right.
Okay. So it's fascinating. I love this compost because that's so, I don't know, it's easy. You don't need a bachelor's degree to do that or a master's. You just need common sense in doing it and then working out together and learning like through that fifth principle. Do you have another one?
Let's see. So the Northside Residents Redevelopment Council, they were awarded $50,000, I think, in our 2022 Co-op Innovation to create a state-certified community safety specialist kind of apprenticeship program, formalizing and professionalizing a community-led patrol program through Minneapolis, North Minneapolis. So again, it's that training, right? So they've created this project for training, for patrolling a community, and to create a safe, supportive kind of environment for the residents. So, I mean, thinking of its unique projects, a lot of it's training and opportunities, new lines of business, new products. I know we only have a few minutes left. Kind of go back to the application. We've like talked about some projects. I just want people to make sure they're aware during the application. If you're looking to apply, like we said before, it's not for operational kind of overhead or gap financing. Use of funds could be project scope, feasibility, training, leadership, professional development, outreach and marketing. So just think about something that you're working on if you're in need of funds that could help a community, or if you're already working on something, I would encourage people to apply. not only if you are a co-op, you can apply. If you're a 501c3, you can apply. And if you have a sponsor, a fiscal sponsor that's 501c3, you can apply for the Co-op Innovation Award. There is no geographic limitation, urban, rural, all across the United States. And if you are interested, again, please email me at mblanton@ncb.coop. I can send the application and send the webinar links for the educational webinars.
All right. We have only a few more minutes left, but I would like for you to talk about the Birthmark Doula Collective, which was in last year.
Yeah, so this one, we awarded $35,000 to the Birthmark Doula Collective. They operate as the New Orleans Breastfeeding Center, and they're providing kind of resources for families of color, LGBTQ communities who face systematic inequalities in kind of maternal care. And so they are another, again, a kind of a worker co-op to provide that care for kind of underrepresented individuals in maternal health.
So there's some stat, and I don't know the stat, but it's like black women are 5 to 10 times more likely to die from childbirth than white women. It's some major stat like that. And so this Birthmark Doula Collective is looking to provide information and health care for these black women and other folks.
Yes. Like, lactation, specialists, birth doula, just, I think there's 7 birth, kind of workers within the collective to help support those families. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any special message you'd like to leave people with today?
I mean, co-ops are, as you know, like a unique model. They help uplift communities. They help solve problems. If you're looking to kind of start a co-op or form a co-op, there's a lot of resources out there for education. If you are part of a co-op now and you're looking for greater impact, I would encourage you to, apply for the Co-op Innovation Award and learn more about, cooperative ownership, and the commitment to the community that co-ops create. And, my favorite principle is Principle 6, Vernon, co-ops cooperating. So to keep the money in the ecosystem, I encourage co-ops to work with other co-ops, to leverage the power of the cooperation, the ecosystem that we're all part of, so that we can all grow and be stronger in our communities.
Thank you, Mary Alex. Let's be stronger in our communities. That's mblanton@ncb.coop. We will see you next Thursday. Please live cooperatively.
The preceding program was paid for by Everything Co-op.